One represents his philosophy. He transgressed through his philosophy that he made up. One is symbolic for philosophy or his knowledge. It said he's a proud man. Neither what? Neither keepeth at home. Because he's all over the world. That's why we read in Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He went all around the world. Read on.
Who enlargeth his desire as hell.
And anywhere he goes, he creates hell, meaning a bad condition on the earth. Read on.
And is as death.
And is that everywhere the white man goes, there's death follows him. Because he is death. People start dying from diseases. He started killing people. Read on.
And cannot be satisfied.
And the so-called European man can't be satisfied. You can give him $1 million, he wants $1 billion. If he gets $1 billion, he wants $1 zillion, and so forth and so on. Read on.
But gathereth unto him all nations.
And gathereth unto himself. That's why he set up the system of democracy. So all these nations are going under his system now. Read on.
And heapeth unto him all people.
Right, and heapeth unto him all people. That's why America is known as a great melting pot. They brought all these nations, and this is prophecy. You so-called Europeans are doing exactly what the Most High said that you was going to do. Read on.
Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his?
Because how did the so-called white man became rich? Mainly off of Israel, because we were the richest nation on the earth. But in stealing our riches, they also stole riches from the other nations, that the other nations had. Now, let's go from there, and let's go back to Genesis, the 4th chapter. But hold that, and let's get the book of Malachi. So we can show you, see, we keep going back and forth to show you that Cain and Abel are representative of what? Jacob and Esau. They came back as Jacob and Esau. Okay? Malachi, the 1st chapter and the 1st verse. And I'll read that, brother.
The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us?
Right, because we as a people been catching so much hell, it seems like the Most High don't love us. But the Most High said he loved Israel. So where you churches get off talking about the Lord loved everybody? He loved the nation of Israel and hated Jacob. Read on.
Was not Esau Jacob?
I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. And hated Esau, which is Edom. He loved Jacob and hated Esau, or Edom. Read on.
Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord?
Right. Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Read on.
Yet I love Jacob.
The Most High said he loved Jacob. Read on.
And I hated Esau.
H-A-T-E. Hated Esau. Read on.
And laid his mountains and his heritage waste.
And laid his mountains, his government, and his heritage waste. The Most High destroyed Esau. Put him up in the caves at one point. Now the Most High is getting ready to utterly destroy Esau, which is the so-called European man. Read on.
For the dragons of the wilderness.
Right, you was pushed up into the caves. Read on.
Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places.
And that's what happened. That started back with when Alexander the Greek, Philip of Macedonia, the 4 generals got together, the generals of Esau's armies, of the Greeks and so forth, and the Romans, and they built back their empire again. Then they was brought down during the time of the Byzantine Empire. Then during the time of the late 1400s, they built back up again. So now they're in their building. Now they're in their building up again. Yeah.
Wasn't the time of Alexander the Greek the beginning of the Edomites, the empire?
Right. That's when they was building. That's when they was building their empire.
That's
okay.
Where it said it would build it again.
Right. But before that, back there, before the time of before they went up in the cave, before Alexander the Greek, Esau was civilized. They were trading among King David and them. They was trading among Israel and all of them. They did have power. Then they was brought down into slavery by King David and King Solomon. Then after that, they was loosed again. They was loosed out again. Then they was brought down by the dark nations and put into the caves of the Caucasus Mountains. Then they loosed again. During the time of Alexander the Greek, up until the Romans, Then they was brought down again by Israelites that set up the Byzantine, so-called Byzantine Empire. So they was brought down. Then they loosed out again. That was during the late 1400s or the 15th century into the 16th century, and they took over the world. And they still got power today. From the late 1400s up until now, they still have power. So that's what that's talking about. So this is their last building now. This is their last of them building back up again. Read that verse again, brother.
Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places.
Right, we will return and build the desolate places. Aren't they over there in Israel? Aren't they over there back in Greece? Don't they have the whole world? Don't they rule over the whole world? Yes, they do. Read on.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down.
Right, you said if you go down to Times Square, they renovating Times Square. They had a news article on that, a news report, saying how they're going to build up Times Square. But the Most High said, according to prophecy, that America and the European were going to build back up. They were going to be built back up. See, the Most High was going to allow them to be built back up according to prophecy. Read on.
And they shall call them the border of wickedness.
That proves that the so-called European man, Edom, is the wicked. That Edom is the wicked. It said, and they shall call them the borders of wickedness. Anywhere they go, they set up wickedness. Go back to Job 9:24. To prove that. Now we know what Job 9:24 is talking about. The wicked is talking about the so-called white man. Read.
Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked.
Right. Didn't it say in Malachi that Esau is going to take back the world again and rebuild the desolate places? So didn't it say the earth is given into the hands of the wicked? Go ahead.
He covereth the faces of the judges thereof.
Right. That's Israel. He's going around playing the part of a judge and a ruler. Read on.
If not, where and who is he?
Right. If he's not the wicked, according to Malachi, the borders of wickedness, then where and who is he? It's talking about the so-called European man, which during the time of Adam's time in Genesis was known as what? Cain, and later was known as what? Edom or Esau. Now let's go back to Genesis, the 4th chapter, and what verse did we leave off at?
The 15th verse.
Okay, read, brother.
And the Lord said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold.
Right. So when people try to come up against the British Empire and against these empires and against the Romans, all these different empires, European empires that were set up, it said they would hunt that person down of a dark nation and hunt him down and destroy him sevenfold, completely destroy him. That's why everybody feared the so-called white man and his rulership. But as you know, Esau is going down now. Esau is losing his rulership. So now people are killing the white man and getting away with it. Back in the 20s, you never heard of the Arabs taking white men hostage. But in the beginning of the 80s, did they do that? Did not the Iranians take 52 hostages? Don't they still have hostages over there now in the Arab world? It's not the white man stopped. They stopped going to these Arab nations and France and all that because of the terrorist attacks. So now the white man does not have his power that he used to have, the so-called European man. He does not have the power that he once had. Read on.
And the Lord set a mark upon Cain.
Right. Before we get into that, let's go to the book of Psalm 54 and 1. Psalm 74 and 1. And we're going to read this in Psalms about, it's going to tell you about the white man, how he was different from all the nations. Because back there, during his renaissance, during his power, it was like he was a god. Back there during the time of when he came out, 1400, 1500, 1600, 1700s, everyone feared him. And he had the dark nations as slaves. But mainly he had Israel as slaves. And he had the other nations working with him to bring these slaves in. And everybody feared the so-called white man. But now he's beginning to fear everybody. And he's getting ready to fear Israel. Because the Most High going to raise us up to destroy the so-called white man.